Today I'm here to convince you that Blinn, the Bryan campus, needs to install overpasses to protect the students, faculty, and staff. It has been my experience that most people believe pedestrians, especially students on campus, always have the right of way. This is a false statement that can prove to be fatal. On May 1st, 2015, I came across Stuart Black's article, Students' Lack of Knowledge of Traffic Laws, that was published on February 24, 2006 for the Texas A&M Transportation Services. He says that misconceptions over traffic laws and right-of-way have some students at the Texas A&M campus putting themselves in dangerous positions both on and off campus. He quoted Rodney Weiss, director of Texas A&M Transportation, as saying, the most common misconception is that pedestrians always have the right-of-way, no matter what the situation, and those vehicles will stop for the pedestrians no matter where they are. Weiss said state laws are fairly specific in terms of right-of-ways for pedestrians. Blinn College campus parking lots currently utilize traditional crosswalks with the slanted lines painted on the pavement that most of us are used to seeing. Even though these crosswalks are in accordance with Texas state law and strictly follow the pedestrian crossing guidelines, they are inadvertently putting people in harm's way. I currently attend Blinn College and am required to use these pedestrian crosswalks provided. I have conducted extensive research from credible sources that have detailed various case studies regarding pedestrian crosswalks. The only way to gain access to Blinn College campus is by either jaywalking or using a crosswalk. This being the case, and considering how high the current national crosswalk incident statistics are, Blinn should seriously consider offering the safest possible route to and from campus. First, I will go over the current national crosswalk injury death statistics. Second, I will list the pedestrian cross guidelines for Texas. Finally, I would like to review 3 possible crosswalk upgrades and give my deductions as to which solution I feel is best suited for eliminating vehicle-pedestrian conflict. Once you've had a chance to hear the information I have collected regarding pedestrian crosswalks, I am confident that you will agree that Blinn College campuses are inadequately designed to help prevent vehicle-pedestrian conflict and should be upgraded without hesitation. The statistics for pedestrian injury or pedestrians killed in the United States each year is staggering, and in order to reduce the amount of incidents occurring on a daily basis, I encourage all college campuses to provide safer routes to and from campus. First, let's go over the national and general collegiate crosswalk injury death statistics of 2012. The Pedestrians and Bicycle Information Center at www.pedbikeinfo.org, in conjunction with the U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration, published the Pedestrian and Bicycle Crash Statistics accessed on May 1st, 2015, which pointed out that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reported that in 2012, 4,743 people were killed in pedestrian motor vehicle crashes, and there were more than 76,000 reported pedestrian injuries. This is nearly 1 injury every 7 minutes. Kathleen Chen published the article, Texas Gets 4 Marks on Pedestrian Safety on May 20th, 2014. For the Texas Tribune, www.texastribune.org. The article was last accessed on May 1st, 2015, and stated that Texas ranked as the 10th most dangerous state for walking commuters with nearly 4,200 pedestrian deaths between 2003 and 2012. That's roughly 10% of such deaths nationally during that time period, according to data compiled from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration statistics. According to Scott Kelly's article, Watch Your Step, in 2007, universities also reported increased pedestrian accidents on and around campuses. With bicyclists, moped riders, and pedestrians going to and from classes, these environments are particularly conducive to collisions and other accidents. Scott Kelly went on to say, in one study, researchers found that marked crosswalks had no effect on reducing pedestrian accidents. Even more counterintuitive was finding that on heavy traffic multi-lane streets, marked crosswalks were associated with greater numbers of pedestrian accidents, not fewer. I warned you about the statistics, and they were appalling. And in an effort to improve the Texas standings, that the Texas Department of Transportation teamed with the Texas Transportation Institute at Texas A&M and developed the Pedestrian Crossing Guidelines of Texas. In December 2000, the Pedestrian Crossing Guidelines of Texas was published by Sean Turner and Paul Carson. The research project was sponsored by Texas Department of Transportation in cooperation with the U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration. The research project takes the Texas state law pertaining to pedestrian crosswalks and establishes a set of guidelines to be used when installing a new or evaluating an existing pedestrian crosswalk. Turner and Carson reported that the street crossing task is made simple and convenient for pedestrians. This approach includes elements such as minimizing the crossing distance by using curb extensions, providing median refuge islands so that pedestrians can cross one direction at a time, adjusting signal timing patterns to minimize pedestrian conflict with right or left turning signals, and providing appropriate push buttons and walk signals at signalized intersections to indicate when pedestrians may cross. Turner and Carson addressed how key visibility is when deciding where to place a crosswalk. The crossing location and any waiting or crossing pedestrians have excellent visibility. Advanced visibility provides additional reaction time for motorists to recognize pedestrians and yield the right-of-way. Consideration for good crossings and curb extensions that place the waiting or crossing pedestrian in the driver's field of view. Advanced signing and innovative crosswalk markings can also be used to improve visibility of crosswalk locations. Turner and Carson noted how speed affects reaction time. Motor vehicle speeds are slower or controlled in the vicinity of the pedestrian crossing. Slower vehicle speeds provide more action time for the motorist and the pedestrian, as well as the translating to less serious injuries of a pedestrian vehicle crash occurs. In their assessment, Turner and Carson supported the use of law enforcement to help ensure crosswalk safety. Enforcement personnel use periodic enforcement where and when necessary to ensure that vehicle drivers yield the right-of-way to pedestrians. Despite the fact that most states have laws that give the right-of-way to pedestrians and crosswalks, driver disregard for these laws is quite common. Periodic police enforcement can help pedestrians gain more respect for motorists. Turner and Carson asked that pedestrians play an active role in promoting safe crosswalk practices. Pedestrians are encouraged to use designated crossing locations and to obey applicable state and local traffic laws. Pedestrians' disregard for established laws can lead to resentment by motorists and eventually motorists' disregard to pedestrians' right-of-way. According to Texas state law pertaining to pedestrian crossings and the Pedestrian Crossing Guidelines of Texas, I would say that Blaine College campus is in compliance on both accounts. With that said, I do not agree with the minimum standards and believe that Blaine College should step forward and implement a pedestrian crosswalk that exceeds the minimum and establishes an example for others to be held to. There are 3 crosswalk upgrades I have researched extensively and consider to be a better fit for the Blaine College campuses. Even though any one of the crosswalks I will discuss would be much needed improvement to the one currently in place, one addresses all of my major concerns and stands out above the rest. The least expensive choice would be to add the push button signals and countdown timers to the current crosswalk. This option is relatively inexpensive compared to the other 2 provided and does not require any major construction or changes in current traffic flow. Most pedestrians are exceedingly familiar with this type of crosswalk and can appreciate the fact that there is no up or downhill climbing required. Unfortunately, students would be subjected to having to wait for a signal to cross traffic. If a student is running late to class, this could encourage or increase jaywalking. The major downside to the proposed plan of action is it does not completely eliminate the potential for vehicle-pedestrian conflict, which is my major concern. Another option is the pedestrian overpass. This can either start or end with a ramp, stairs, or an elevator, and it travels over the flow of traffic. It eliminates the potential for vehicle-pedestrian conflicts and adds an aesthetic value to the campus. This crosswalk solves all the problems I feel the current crosswalks possess, but it comes at a price. Depending on the size and type of construction, one overpass could run anywhere from $1 million to possibly $10 million. It could also alter current flow of traffic. The most expensive and extensive pedestrian crosswalk of the three is the pedestrian underpass or tunnel. The entrance starts with a gradual downhill ramp and goes underneath the flow of traffic. The pros and cons are almost identical to the overpass, except for the underpass is twice as expensive and would require an exorbitant amount of time compared to the other two proposals. Considering today's pedestrian death and injury rate, the current pedestrian crosswalk guidelines for Texas and the available methods, I believe student, faculty, and staff are best served by having a couple of overpasses installed on campus. Today, I first provided the current national crosswalk statistics regarding injury and death that exist with traditional crosswalks. Second, I went over and reviewed the pedestrian crosswalk guidelines for Texas. Finally, I provided the possible crosswalk upgrades and what option I felt was best suited for eliminating the vehicle-pedestrian conflict. Glenn College campus parking lots currently utilize traditional crosswalks with the slanted white lines painted on the pavement that most of us are used to seeing. Even though these crosswalks are in accordance with Texas state law and strictly follow the pedestrian crossing guidelines, they are inadvertently putting people in harm's way. Limiting vehicle-pedestrian conflict is not cheap, but when considering the cost to build an overpass, people should also evaluate the cost of a human life. If you agree that the price of a human life far exceeds that of a $10 million overpass, I ask that you join me in petitioning the Board of Directors to build 2 overpasses on the Bryan Blinn campus. Thank you for your time.
Bravo! Bravo!